Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas. And I sent an email this morning. There are two important reasons why I'm in Las Vegas. I'll also cover those. But we have several thousand people who are registered for this. So I'm going to give them 60 seconds or so to get on here. So I am in Las Vegas at SHOT Show. It's the Shooting, Hunting, and Outdoor Trade Show. Massive trade show, literally miles and miles of gear. So I have meetings with clients. I have meetings with people I do consulting with. So I've been walking around at the Venetian Expo all day today for that trade show. But I've also had a meeting with a gentleman, and he's from Taiwan. He kind of lives everywhere. Australia. One of my inside contacts, and I'll share some of that this evening about what we discussed. But I'm glad you're joining me, and we're having a special guest. And this special guest I had on one of these maybe a year and a half ago, and he's so busy I couldn't get on. But when I told him what I was talking about, he was like, "Yeah, absolutely," because he wants to hear this too. So while we have more people coming on, let me tell you how this all came about. I have a lot of consulting clients, and they're obviously worried about the status of the country, about all the craziness going on. And so this was originally what you're going to see tonight, this presentation. It's not a fancy presentation, meaning if you think you're going to see some Hollywood effects or whatever, none of that. It's true to the point information. And so I originally put this together for a very small group of clients who are worried. And when we start this, there's kind of an aha moment towards the end. We're going to be like, holy crap kind of thing. And so the four financial trigger events in the spy world, wherever you're going, you always plan for trigger events. So it doesn't matter if you're going to Paris, France. It doesn't matter if you're going to, Timbuktu, middle of nowhere, Africa. You plan ahead of time for trigger events. And those trigger events might be a natural disaster in that certain part. A tornado, you're in Tornado Alley, you got to prepare for that. It might be a coup. It might be an election coming. And of course, we will talk about the coming election tonight. It might be a certain event. So you prepare and plan ahead for all these trigger events, because if something happens and you're a foreign intelligence officer in that country and you see one of these going down, you've got to get the heck out of Dodge. You got to plan your escape routes. You got to know, okay, if I see a coup happening, here's where I'm going to go. Here's how I'm going to get out of this country and get to safety. If I see, again, something as simple as a tornado, if I see a tornado happening, here's where I'm going to leave. Here's a safe house I'm going to go to. So trigger events are something that are obviously taken very, very seriously in the intelligence business. We plan for them like crazy. Every intelligence officer plans for them. And so that's why I talked about the 2024 trigger events I'm going to cover. We are going to cover four major trigger events, but we're going to also cover micro trigger events. And I kind of even hate the word they use, micro, because any one of them is going to be disastrous, but there are more micro trigger events. So 2024 trigger events plus the micro trigger events. Like I said, halfway through, well, I'll bring on a special guest halfway through, but before halfway through is going to be the aha moment, can't speak. And when I was working with the private clients, really kind of, blew their mind, but surprised them. So, of course, we have to talk about the national debt. At the end of December, I'm sure you saw the news headlines. I'm sure you saw this. Government debt topped the most in the history, $34 trillion. I mean, that's a number that is so outrageous. It's hard to wrap your mind around. But here's the crazy thing. And this, again, helps you wrap your mind around it. 215 years. It took us 215 years to rack up $7 trillion in debt. If you're looking right here, since March of 2020, obviously the pandemic and all that, we've had $7 trillion in just the last few years. So it took 215 years to get that point. But just in the last few years, we've racked up another $7 trillion, which again is an unfathomable amount of debt. So look at all these countries. These are big countries. These aren't like podunk, rinky-dink countries. 34 trillion. The combined values of the economies of all these countries, of China, Germany, Japan, India, United Kingdom. And then, of course, when you talk about within 10 years, the federal government will spend more money on interest payments than on research, development, infrastructure, all that stuff combined. So, of course, how can you have a country that is doing what it needs to do, meaning it's growing, it is having the correct infrastructure, when you are spending more money on interest payments on debt, not a good thing. I mean, you can't keep your house in order if you can barely afford your debt. As a very religious person, most religions and many people say, get out of debt, try not to be in debt. That is a cornerstone of making sure that you have a good financial home and everything. But here's where we are. This is another scary thing. 659 billion in 2023. So it's nearly double what the interest payments were in the year 2024. So we're already up 39% from the previous year. And this, of course, was at the end of 2023. So like that is, again, it's like, oh, it's disgusting and it's mind blowing, but this is what our interest payments are getting at. Look at this cost of servicing these debts. It's going to surpass defense spending in 2025. So next year and top Medicare in 2026, which of course is not too far away. I mean, it's going to be here, unfortunately, before we know it. And interest on the federal debt. I mean, it's just, again, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing for my family. We'll obviously get to that, but it's like so flabbergasting. My kids are young and I was trying to explain this to them and they couldn't even wrap their mind around. And then of course they said like, so why does the government do this? Why don't they just stop spending? It's like, obviously that'd be the wonderful thing to do. I think it was Warren Buffett. He's got this great quote, and I can't remember the exact Warren Buffett quote, but it was something like, I can tell you how to balance the budget or solve the national debt problem in 10 seconds. The answer is if they don't do it, they don't get to run for re-election, right? There's some bill in there. If you don't balance the budget, if you keep spending, you don't get to run for re-election. That would solve it. And as a person who was born and raised just outside of Washington, D.C., a few miles outside of D.C., of course, obviously working for the agency, knew plenty of politicians, congressmen, and that is the truth. There are good ones, and I met and worked with many of the good ones, and I have some of the good ones that are clients who I can't name for privacy reasons, but the vast majority, that's the only thing they care about is getting reelected. They could care less about right or wrong. It's like, will this help me get reelected? So that is absolutely true. But anyways, the interest on the federal debt, you can read right here, so immense, consuming 40% of our income taxes. And then, of course, it's growing 500 billion, breakneck pace. It's just the snowball is getting worse and worse. And then if federal finances continue on their current path, which of course they will, it's not like the government's going to stop spending. It's not like Democrats are going to not start, add as many welfare programs as they can, that the entirety of our federal income taxes will be used just to cover the debt. It's at 40% right now, and it's growing like crazy. So that is clearly not good. Now, many people know Jeremy Grantham. He was the guy who predicted the dot-com crash, the financial crisis. He has many claims to fame. Very, very, very smart investor. And he's said, this year, coming in 2024, he thinks that there's going to be a major stock market collapse because of all this going on, because of the government debt, because of how crazy it is. And he's saying, here you can see 27%, that's a good case scenario. Maybe worst case, it's 50% type of thing. And I am no Jeremy Grantham, I'm no stock market wizard, but again, it doesn't take a genius to see, okay, if the federal government is spending all this money, if 40% of our income taxes right now are paying down this debt, well, clearly it's not sustainable. Clearly there's going to be an economic crash of some type. Here's something interesting that someone shared with me, one of my contacts, when we were talking about this and I was sharing this with the clients. He was saying, well, a 30% decline in 2024 would be very, very feasible. With everything going on, that would not be a shocker whatsoever. And in March, the coronavirus, obviously 18 days to hit 30%. So not long at all. 1987, 55 days. 1929, 55 days. And then the financial crisis in 2008, the dot-com bust, those took about a year, a little under a year. But still, 30%. There's a lot of money with people in the markets. Losing 30% of your money. And even if it's a year, if it's 18 days, that's still 30%. That is a heck of a lot. So again, I'm going to wrap up here in a moment, all 4 financial triggers. But one of them is obviously the debt. Is obviously our massive amount, our unfathomable amount of debt and causing a major stock market crash in 2024. So keep your eye on that because, again, the government is not going to stop spending money. The government is not going to stop creating government agencies. The welfare state isn't going to get any smaller. Democrats want to get reelected. Well, how do I get reelected? I promise people Obama phones. I promise people free housing. I promise people this. I promise people that. That's never going to stop because it's always easy to promise that when you're using other people's money, type of thing. So that is major trigger event number one, is spending way too much money, our government debt out of control and ballooning faster than ever, which is not what, that's what most people don't realize, is it's ballooning faster than ever. It's not just like a slow and steady pace, is that sucker's rolling down the hill, picking up steam, that snowball's getting bigger, 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 faster and faster. So if you're writing this down, trigger event number one, the government's debt causing a major financial collapse in the markets, as you can see here. So a big stock market drop. So what is financial trigger event number two? It's the Fed's lowering the interest rates. Now, here's the thing. Everybody thinks, well, lower interest rates, that's wonderful. Well, yes, in a term it is, meaning, okay, it's not as much to get a house. It's not as much to go buy a car, all that kind of thing. But of course, what does the Feds do? They get us in this vicious cycle of lowering interest rates, and then things get out of control. And then I've got to jack them up again, and then housing becomes unaffordable, and it's this vicious cycle. So there's a very high chance, because the Fed is terrified of a recession this year in 2024, that they are going to lower interest rates. Well, guess what lowering interest rates means? That means they print a bunch of money. They make the dollar collapse even sooner. They increase our national debt. Everything, it's like I was trying to tell my children here, because they were asking me, obviously, why I was staying late tonight, or why, I wasn't there. I was going to talk to them at this time when they go to bed. And I'm explaining, they're just like, why do they keep doing it? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Yes, it does not make sense to a rational person. So the Fed lowering interest rates. And I can't remember where I pulled this quote from, but they print the money, increase national debt, they lend it out. They're trying to stimulate the economy, obviously. But that money printing by the lowering interest rates, which is very likely to occur later this year, is going to cause all the other problems. It's going to affect trigger event number one, which is the collapse of the economy, which is our national debt, the collapse of the dollar, all that stuff. Lower interest rates equal more inflation. That's what it comes down to. That is the bottom line there. So I know, again, people want to jump for joy and say, well, this is wonderful. I can, money's cheaper, but that's because they're printing it. It hurts us in the long run. I don't have to tell you this. We remember all this from the last few years. We remember when COVID hit. Inflation absolutely out of control. Food went up. I have 7 kids. One of them is a newborn. So my son is 3 months old now. When we go out, we try not to eat out a lot because just my wife and I'll go out to eat by ourselves. But taking the family, it's just way too expensive. And we were traveling the other day. I can't even remember when. It was like McDonald's or Wendy's. It was a fast food restaurant. It was not a good restaurant. It was $70 to feed my family at a fast food restaurant. If we go to a place, and again, not a super fancy place, but an Applebee's or a Chili's, it's well over $100, which is why I'm not taking my kids out to eat all the time. So I was like, how in the world am I at a crappy McDonald's, staring at my receipt, spending $70 to feed you guys? So inflation, out of control because of the Feds printing money. It's a vicious cycle. Rates low. They want to spur the growth. They want to spur the growth by printing money, increases inflation, reduces our purchasing power. So it hurts us in the long run. It hurts the economy. It cripples us. I mean, that's why I don't remember the exact stats, but since 19, and again, I don't remember what it is. The dollar has lost like 90% of its purchasing power because of all this stuff going on. So trigger event number two, if you're writing this down, is the Fed's lowering interest rates this year. It's going to cause more printing of the money. It's going to affect trigger event number one because the debt's going to skyrocket even faster. The stock market is going to crash, whether it's the 27%, whether it's the 50%, whether it's the 30%, it's not going to be good. So moving on, as you can see right here, trigger event number three. I'm sure you saw this coming. I'm sure that you were like, yeah, this is going to be a trigger event. Well, it is a financial trigger event. These are just some of the headlines that I pulled from various news sources, from things, I'm just sitting there reading the news or watching the news and these pop up type of thing. Like how crazy is it when you're looking at this and it's like I can't remember the poll that I pulled this from. Like more Americans support political violence ahead of 2024. Like that is nutso. That is crazy. Um, After the election, too. So before the election, we know there's going to be problems. We know there's going to be chaos. We know there's going to be people who are again physically harming one another, who are not happy as they can see, candidates going against each other. But if Trump wins, if a Republican wins, which obviously I hope a Republican wins, and it's not the Democrats, it's not Biden or whoever really ends up running, there's going to be mass looting. There's going to be mass looting. That is a trigger event. There's going to be mass rioting. I mean, I was talking to somebody, it was a week ago, one of my clients, and he was like, well, maybe it's not going to be that bad. Maybe. And I was like, what are you talking about? Do you not remember the last few years? I mean, do you not remember COVID and them burning things to the ground, setting the buildings on fire, setting police cars on fire? Do you not remember? And I said, it's only going to be worse. And you know why it's going to be worse? Because we are not punishing crime as much. I told this story to a private group. One of the things my company does is we do a lot of bodyguard work. So we do bodyguard work for celebrities, for musicians, for all just high net worth individuals, right? And so we were doing a music fest this past summer in Chicago. My top bodyguard team was at this big music festival, kind of like a Lollapalooza type of thing. And my top guys near the tour buses at the end, watching everything. Two guys get in the shootout near these tour buses. My top bodyguard witnesses it, not super close, but not far away, and sees the guys immediately run off. Well, police were around here. Police run up to my top bodyguard, and he's like, yeah, I saw the two guys. Here's what happened. Point him out. And this is true story. He said to my top guy, the police officer, hey, did anybody get hurt? No, nobody got hurt. So nobody got shot. No, nobody got shot. Nobody's bleeding. Nobody's bleeding. Okay, we're out of here. And he said, wait a minute. You're not going to go try and find these guys? He said, why would we waste our time? I'm not going to do the paperwork because if I find these guys and arrest them, they'll be out on the streets within 4 hours. So I don't care. That is what politicians have done. That is why criminals are emboldened. Obviously, why would you be afraid to rob a store and loot it? Because you know you're going to get a slap on the wrist. So they have gone even softer on crime in the years since we saw the looting and the rioting 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So when this guy was telling me like, hey, I don't think there's going to be mass looting, if Trump wins or whoever the Republican wins, I don't think there's going to be mass. I'm like, are you out of your mind? It's going to be 10 times worse. That the election, and a Republican winning, which again, I sure hope the heck it happens, is going to be a major trigger event of looting, rioting. And of course, I still have many contacts in the DC area, friends in FBI and law enforcement. And I was talking to one of them. I put this third bullet here. As you saying, we are so terrified of the looting and rioting, especially in the DC area. We're going to pull out all the stops. We're going to have so many more people there than normal from every government agency you can imagine, every law enforcement agency you can imagine. And we're going to try and nip it in the bud. And I said, the politicians are actually like, do that. He says, well, right now they told us we can. Of course, that may change, but they are terrified of what's going to happen after the election, after who wins and all the rioting and looting. So the election, again, right, if you're writing this down, is 100% a trigger event that people should be worried about. That's why I say that's why I live in a small town. That's why I live in small town Utah, is I would not want to be in any major city come the election. I would not want to be where I used to live, just across the bridge in Northern Virginia after the election. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near there because the election is absolutely a financial trigger event that is going to affect our money this year. Just some more things I pulled off as I was planning or I was preparing this for the private clients that I originally gave this to. Most of the public think democracy could be at risk depending on who wins. And of course, it will be an election unlike any that we've lived through. And I totally agree with all these, meaning I think this is going to be an election unlike anything we've lived through. I think the threats are going to be off the chart. And again, I go back to mainly because people are not afraid of being punished. If you don't punish people, well, they have nothing to fear. If I didn't punish my kids, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to keep doing this. They're going to keep doing the bad behavior. So it's like, why do you think it's going to be worse, folks? Why is this, there's a correlation here type of thing. So please, well, be safe on election night, obviously, but I'm going to tell you again how to prepare in a moment. And then, of course, this is one I've been talking about for a while now, but like the national debt that is escalating, the digital dollar is escalating. It's just picking up steam. So last year, less than a year ago, Biden signed that executive order to start doing research, start putting in place all the pieces for a digital dollar. And I highlighted this part in yellow because what do we know about the federal government? Whatever they say, they mean the exact opposite. That's like when they name a bill, it's the exact opposite, like the Inflation Reduction Act. Of course, that means skyrocketing inflation, spending more of your money, collapsing the dollar sooner. So the fact that they are saying we want to preserve the role of physical cash, we want to only collect data that is strictly necessary. Yeah, right. None of that is true whatsoever with the coming digital dollar. This is another thing the Biden administration said. It's essential to ensure that U.S. national security, financial stability, and U.S. competitiveness. Of course, it all sounds good, but do they really mean that for any of this? No. And then my favorite one here is this one on the bottom, again, from an official in the Biden administration. One key objective is to address inefficiencies in the current U.S. payment system and boost financial inclusion. The word inclusion, it's like they sit in this little room and they're like, all right, how do we get the American public to believe anything? How can we just put ourselves in more power? And again, we don't care about the economy. We don't care about the average American. Use the word inclusion. It might as well be like a Saturday Night Live skit or an episode of The Office where they're like, how can we get away with murder? How will the American public believe anything we say? Just use the word inclusion. If you throw the word inclusion, they'll walk blindly off a cliff. And that's what they know. But of course, we all know better. We're not that dumb. And then this is just some, what everybody knows here, the truth about a digital currency, the truth about what Biden is pushing, which is picking up steam, is that it allows the government to track you. It allows them to say, hey, can you buy this or not? I mean, China's already doing this. And I can't remember which Democrat said this, but they were like, yeah, China's doing a wonderful job over there with their system. And it was some Democrat. I don't remember who it was now, but they were praising the disgustingness of what China's doing. And right now I'm in Vegas. After this, I'm going to go have some dinner with some people. And, imagine if I was going to a restaurant, I pull out my cash or I pull out my credit card or whatever, and we're on some Biden digital dollar, like, Mr. Hanson, you bought 2 guns this month. Sorry, you're not allowed to eat at this restaurant. Wait, what? Like I'm going to pay for a pack of gum or I'm going to buy, some candy for my kids. They're like, sorry, Mr. Hanson, we have a red flag on you that you were talking bad about the Biden administration, or we show that you have stockpiled ammo and you have, X amount of ammunition. It sounds crazy, but guess what? That is what Democrats would love. They would absolutely love that. I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because I know we have a lot of new people who've never heard it. But a friend of mine was on an intelligence operation overseas. We were working in a very socialist country. He was working with a government official very, very high up in this socialist country, helping the U.S. This guy, the socialist was. And so my friend said to him when he had him alone one day, he said, listen, socialism is like BS. How do you believe in it? How can you actually, believe in this stuff? And the guy who was helping the U.S. government, but he was a socialist in the socialist country, he said to my friend, my CIA buddy, he said to him, well, guess what? Everybody knows socialism is crap. Everybody knows socialism doesn't work unless you're at the top. And I'm at the top as a government official, so it works very well for me. I guess at least that guy was honest, but that's the truth. That is them at the top. They do not care about us. They think, well, who cares that we're screwing the American public? Who cares that we're tracking their stuff? So some financial analyst named Adam Jordan, I mean, again, this is what we know. The government loves the Biden digital dollar because they can track everything. They can control everything. That is what every government wants, which is why we have the Constitution, even though it's hanging by a thread in certain instances, to offset what the government is trying to do. So number 4 financial trigger is definitely Biden's digital dollar, which is picking up more and more steam in 2024. So you need to be aware of that. Now, what other micro events? So we've gone over the 4 big financial triggers, but what are the other micro financial triggers? Well, there's wars. We've got Ukraine, Israel, we've got China, Taiwan. One of the guys I'm meeting here who lives in Taiwan, one of my sources was like, Jason, nobody thinks it's going to happen. He was like, nobody thinks China is going to invade Taiwan. But we know that China's been preparing for it for 30 years. We know that's their goal. It's almost like when Russia was setting up all these tanks on the border of Ukraine, people were like, no, they're still not going to come in. They're still not, like, the average Ukrainian citizen was like, no, they're not going to come in until they cross the border, even though they're standing right there. It's like they're standing at the gates, literally. It's like if somebody's standing at your driveway or your front door and they're like, hey, Jason, in 5 minutes, I'm going to kick in this front door and do a home invasion. And I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. He's like, Jason, in 4 minutes, I'm going to kick in your front door and do a home invasion. I'm like, nah. And I just sit there and do nothing. Well, this is what the guy I was talking to said. It's like, it's going to happen. Of course, we know it's going to happen. But so many people are sitting there with their head in their sand saying, no, China would never invade Taiwan. It's never going to happen. It's going to happen. That is a trigger event. Of course, open borders, which is just mind-numbing. I can't, again, obviously the Democrats do it because they want votes. But like the fact that we are having to fight, and like the state of Texas, I love the state of Texas. I do business there all the time. I'm flying in and out of there to Austin and Dallas all the time. So I love Texas. But the fact that Texas is trying to do the right thing and the federal government is stopping them, they're saying, no, you can't put up this razor wire. No, you can't protect your borders. When, of course, Texas did the awesome thing of busing the immigrants to New York City, wherever. And they're like, no, we don't want them. You don't take them. Of course, they say they're going to help them until I'm going to be a sanctuary city until they're in your backyard. Hypocrites, because that's what Democrats are, is hypocrites. So the border strains everything. It's a financial trigger event. When it strains the medical services, when it strains the economy, when it strains the supply chains, it puts a big, big strain on things. And that can be, and will be, not can be, will be a financial trigger event. Another one is cyber attacks. So AI attacks. So a big cyber attack, whether it's shutting down our power grid, whether it's shutting down water supplies, which they're always trying to do this, they're always probing, that can be a major, major financial trigger event, is a massive cyber attack. Bank failures. We saw them happen last year, some serious bank failures. They're going to happen more again this year, no doubt about it. That's a trigger event. Banking, credit, and investing, manipulated by the government. So this goes back to the Biden digital dollar. I'm at SHOT Show right now in Las Vegas. I was talking to a guy I work with, I do some consulting with. He's in the gun business. And he says, yeah, I got to find a new merchant account to process my credit cards because the current one is not letting us do any gun stuff anymore. So he's trying to go and meet all these people, these merchant accounts, so they will do credit card processing for him. It's like he's a federal firearms licensed dealer. He's doing everything 100% legal. And he's having to fight this because the banks are like, no, we don't want to deal with you anymore. Well, that is a trigger event when the banking, credit, investing that people are trying to do, people like you and me, they say, no, we're not, you can't be a part of that. We're shutting you down. We're going to shut down this whole swath of the economy and not process this stuff because we don't like guns. We don't like ammo. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. It's no secret. They all want to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. They've been trying it for years. They're not going to stop trying it. And when the dollar gets replaced as the world's reserve currency, that is going to be a trigger event. That'll be a disastrous trigger event of all trigger events. So that is, again, if you're writing this down, and I'll send out I'll probably send out a replay. But the dollar getting replaced as the world's reserve currency is absolutely on the list of dangerous trigger events. And then everything else going on in this country, because I was talking to a guy, and one of my clients here, he's like, Jason, I'm worried about, and I wrote it down because he was so worried about it. I'm worried about health, food, inflation, corruption, gas prices. I'm worried about race wars, all this gender nonsense going on. And I said, yes, those are micro trigger events. Now, here is kind of like the $1 million takeaway. The important thing I want to hammer in, which when I was doing this with the private clients, like nobody realized, because some of the people I was talking to were like, all right, Jason, which is the real dangerous one? Which one should I, prepare for? Which one, because one guy was, I think I was telling you, was like, I'm not too worried about the elections. I'm really, really worried about the government's debt. I'm worried about a financial collapse. I'm worried about the stock market collapsing because of the government's debt. But I'm not so worried about the election. And I said, guess what? It does not matter what the trigger event is. It doesn't matter if it's a stock market collapse because of the debt. It doesn't matter if it's the election. It doesn't matter if it's Biden's digital dollar. It doesn't matter if it's a war or China and Taiwan or whatever the wars. The event doesn't matter. Because of the day and age we live, what happens when something bad happens? Panic spreads like wildfire. You can see it right here. Uncontrollable fear because everybody on social media, everybody on the news. I mean, what did CNN do? And I believe it was CNN to spread fear during the pandemic. They had that little bar running across the screen that said 500 deaths, 501 deaths, 506 deaths, 500, and it kept updating every time somebody allegedly died because of COVID, right? Well, that's what any one of these events will do. It's going to be a massive wildfire spreading because of social media, and that is going to cause a financial downturn like no other. So again, I can't emphasize enough because I talk to so many people. This is obviously what I do for a living, what I love to do for a living, and they don't realize, and I put it down here, we are a dry powder keg ready to explode. And a lot of people do get this. A lot of people who've hired me, who I've met with, they tell me, and this is usually their words, like, Jason, something just doesn't feel right. I can't pinpoint, but I know something bad is going to happen. Just, it doesn't feel right. And I'm like, when we go over this presentation, they're like, yes, 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 yes. I'm like, yeah, it's all these things. But guess what? It doesn't matter what the trigger event is because it's going to cause the financial collapse. It's going to cause the stock market to drop 30%, 50%, whatever the real number is. It's going to cause businesses to get rioted, to get looted, to get smashed, and all that kind of stuff. So I think 2024, because I think it's going to be a lot worse than most people realize. This is why, besides doing this for the private clients, I said, you know what, and I asked them because they paid me a lot of money to do this, and they didn't care. They said, sure, share it. So that's why I wanted to share with you. I wanted you to see all the dangerous financial trigger events that are coming down the pipeline that could hit. And I want to tell you exactly what I'm doing. The reason I want to tell you exactly what I'm doing is because there's not a lot of places where you can do what I'm doing. And I want to bring on my special guest real quick because he's going to answer some questions, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. We're also going to talk more about these trigger events. I'm certainly not done here, so don't think that. My special guest is a gentleman, and I think it was maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but he is the CEO of one of the largest gold companies in the world. And I cannot tell you guys, and this is probably sounding like me bragging, but it's not to be bragging at all, because I love gold. I mention gold. I invest in gold all the time. I can't tell you how many gold companies have come out of the woodwork and saying, hey, Jason, next time you mention gold, can you just drop our name? And so here's what I do, obviously investing in my precious metals and the other stuff I'm going to talk about here in a moment. I do my research. So there's only a handful of gold, let's just say a handful of gold companies that can do exactly what I need to do. And what did I do? I went mystery shopped them. I ran background checks on them. I went and worked with them. So these guys came out of the woodwork saying, hey, Jason, I saw you mentioned gold today. Can you drop a line? And I said, I was polite. I was kind. But it's like, guess what? You didn't think I already researched your company, guys, and you were rude to me. You didn't take care of my customers, or my aunt, you were crappy too. So the reason I say that is because of what I do. There's only a handful of gold companies, and there's only one I use, which is why I was able to get the CEO, who it's taken me a year and a half to get now. He's been busy. I've been busy. We've crossed paths. But I have the CEO of Vantage Gold on here right now. His name is Kirill. I mystery shopped him like crazy, like I mystery shopped everyone else. But he's the one I trust. He's the one I use. He's the one that I can do the two things with. So first, Kirill, I want to thank you for joining me tonight.
Hey, it's great to be here. I absolutely loved the presentation. I mean, we could just spend hours talking about those trigger events, just you and I. I think it's all very relevant. It's very timely, and it's great to see you again.
Well, yeah. Again, I'm glad you jumped on. I want to thank you for that. But what I want to talk about is, first, what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on the trigger events? Because I know you run one of the biggest gold companies in the world. So what are you seeing on your end?
Look, we help a lot of folks protect their retirement accounts, protect their wealth, protect their savings. And one of the things that keeps coming up over and over again is the digital dollar. It's a theme that just won't go away. And I think it makes a lot of sense that folks are concerned about this because all the things that you covered in terms of the debt, all the money printing, the inflation that we have because of the money printing. Well, guess what? The digital dollar is a shortcut for the government to continue to do that, because printing money, we have this image of these printing presses that are going and spitting out $100 bills. A digital dollar is a click of a button, and the devaluation happens instantly. And I think that, of course, obviously, additional privacy concerns and those types of things that go hand in hand with the implementation of the digital dollar. But that's something that I know our clients are extremely concerned about. And really, when you think about the entire financial system, where it's a paper-based system, everything's on a screen, click of a mouse, click of a button. So it's scary. It's really scary. So I think that that's a major thing that is a theme that keeps coming up with our clients.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's the same thing I'm hearing from all the people that hire me, people that work with me. And here's what I tell them. This is what I've been trying to pound the table. And the reason I ask you to do me this favor and hop on, the reason that, I say, hey, these are the guys I trust, is it's got to be physical assets, guys. It's got to be physical, physical, physical. So I've had people reach out to me. They're like, hey, Jason, I'm going to go buy this gold stock. What do you think? This ETF or this and that, or, hey, this gold company told me that this gold stock's going to rise, like 10 trillion% overnight. I'm like, guys, and then I show them this presentation. They're like, holy crap. Now I realize it's got to be physical, hold in your hand, gold and silver. And that's what I like what you do. So I guess tell me what what you like, physical gold and silver, what you guys are doing. And again, I've got stuff that I want to ask you and that I want to share, more about the financial triggers.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we only deal with physical gold, silver, and platinum. Physical. So we're actually talking a coin or a bar, something you can hold in your hand. And there's two different ways that we can help investors protect their portfolio, their retirement, their savings, just their wealth. The first is simply just converting cash into gold and silver. So this is called direct delivery. It's a simple process. You set up an account, you send a bank wire, and then we physically ship the metals directly to your door. It's a very private process. It's all fully insured. It's very secure. The boxes don't say gold or silver in the box. You're a client, so you know how you received your, I think you almost cut off one of your fingers with one of your fancy knives.
Well, yeah. So people always ask me, because obviously I've told my friends and family are always like, hey, after that, because I've given this presentation, I've taken it wide now, right? And they're like, hey, Jason, who should I invest in gold? Because most of them, already know to invest in you, but the ones who don't, and I'm like, just go to, Advantage Gold. They'll take care of you, yada, yada, yada. And they're always like, okay, how is it going to come in the mail if I get it? Is it get, I'm after worry about my neighbor stealing it, like you said, where it says gold. I'm like, no, it comes in a box, no markings whatsoever that have anything to gold. And you've got to have a good knife, because they wrap that sucker like crazy. And so I've gotten sheets from you, I've gotten tubes, and even the tubes, there's tape everywhere, which I like. I want my stuff secure, so I love it. But I'm like, this is like Fort Knox, where I'm going through 10 layers of tape and packing tape and duct tape and everything. So yeah, it's super easy. It's like people think it's for some mysterious or crazy process, but no, you place the order, you tell them how much, they send it to you in a discreet box, you cut it open, and then you get all the gold that's sitting there. So it's, it's super easy to do.
It's very easy. It's very safe. It's very private. We have a team of experts. We have thousands of 5-star reviews online. We take a tremendous amount of pride in building relationships with all of our clients. So the privacy aspect, it's so important, and it's so key in this whole process because it's based on trust, which is why, again, you're a client. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. Now, there is another way that you can acquire precious metals. And this is something that not a lot of people know is even an option that's available, but that's using a retirement account. So using a retirement account, if you have a 401k that's eligible, or an IRA or a TSP, a thrift savings plan, provided that it's eligible, you can actually put physical metals inside of that retirement account. And again, this is not a stock. We're not financial advisors. We don't offer any sort of tax advice or stock advice or mutual fund advice. That's not what we do. We deal with actual physical assets, coins or bars. And you can actually set up a self-directed IRA and own physical coins or bars of gold, silver, and platinum inside of that self-directed IRA without having to take a distribution and without having to pay taxes on that conversion.
Let me tell you how absolutely crazy things are. Okay. So my mom died of cancer several years ago. My dad remarried. And I have to say this laughing, but she's a Democrat, right? And so she doesn't, oh, you have all these guns, you do this and that, she doesn't appreciate what I do, for lack of a better word. Not too long ago, because I was mentioning this to other people, the financial triggers and everything. she says to me, okay, Jason, I want to, you've told me this gold IRA thing in the past, but I want to do it now. How do I do it? And I'm like, just call Advantage Gold. Here, here's Sean Boz is my guy. Here's go to do it. But it's like when my Democrat, I hate to call her my stepmother. I just hate using that word because anyways, when my Democrat, the woman my father is married to, is calling me and is like, hey, Jay, and she may have already done it. I don't know if she's done it or not. She could already be a client of yours. Is asking me about, hey, okay, I want physical precious metals in my IRA. It's like, things are getting really, really bad. And we haven't even hit far into 2024. So and this is a question I always get. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I'll tell people what I'm doing. But when people are getting, whether it's a direct delivery or whether it's a self-directed IRA, what kind of coins do you like these days? Like what kind of silver coins, what kind of gold coins? Like what are you recommending to people?
Yeah, so the most popular by far are fractional coins because of some of the things that you spoke about in your presentation. So we're talking quarter-ounce gold coins, three-quarter-ounce silver coins. Everything that we deal with is investment grade. For direct delivery, there's one other option that a lot of folks like, and that's junk silver. So silver, and this is all a very interesting theme because we used to be on the gold standard. We used to actually have currency that was valued based on the value of gold. It was the gold standard. We also used to mint coins from precious metals. Silver dimes, quarters, half dollars were 90% silver. These are US coins that were 90% silver up until 1965. So those of you that are watching, if you find a quarter from 1963, that's 90% silver. And those are ideal items for barter and exchange. As a matter of fact, you see the bug out bag that we did together behind me. That has my junk silver. That's easy to use for barter and exchange. The IRS doesn't allow that type of metal inside of an IRA. So inside of an IRA, you can't buy the 90% silver. It has to be pure. And so the coins that we deal with for the retirement accounts are quarter-ounce gold coins are very popular. And these are 4/9 purity. So this is pure gold, and it has to be. The tax code only permits you to have precious metals that are of a certain fineness and standards inside of a retirement account. So it's actually one of the safest way to buy precious metals is because of those regulations that are in place that don't even allow something that doesn't fit the tax code's fineness and purity requirements to be sent for an IRA. So it's very, very safe, but it's a quarter-ounce coins. I mean, look, everybody's concerned about the same stuff, right? It doesn't take a genius to see what we're doing. We're printing money. We have this modern monetary theory that AOC is a champion of, which basically states that the government can print as much money as we want, and it doesn't matter because they can just print more money. The digital dollar is going to make that process a lot easier. And there's all of these different potential trigger events. And so in order to really protect yourself, I believe, have to have a plan. And you have to have something that's a physical asset that you can easily transact with and that can be used as a store of value. So
one of the things I'm doing, I was just looking at the chat box and I'll answer some of these questions, is somebody said, where do I go to invest my IRA in actual gold? I know I ask you to, or ask your team to put together a link or whatever. That way I don't, because all I do is I get people all the time who are like, hey, Jason, who do you trust for gold? I forward my information on, meaning forward that information on to Sean or to not you, because I know you forward it on to other people too. But it's like, I ask you guys just to ease my customer service. And so I don't have to forward 1,000 emails. Is there a link that your team can drop in there where they can go if they want to get I know there's the information. Thank you for doing that. But what I was going to say is, so what I do, and a lot of it has to do with my CIA background. You mentioned the 1/4 ounce gold coins. I absolutely love the 1/4 ounce gold coins. I have a lot of them. And the reason is for transportability, because I can literally put that in my, and everybody's gonna think I'm crazy. I still have my escape and evasion belt when I go overseas. I can put a gold coin in it. That's still worth several $100s. And I've had to bribe people overseas. And sometimes you don't want to pull out a full ounce of gold to bribe people. Sometimes you want to pull out 1/4 ounce of gold. That way you have, more coins to go with you. So that's why I'm a huge fan of having the 1/4 ounce gold coins. I like those. I have some of the $5 commemorative coins. I like those. Of course, I have silver. I have all kinds of silver. I have the junk silver. I have the quarters. I have the 1 ounce silver. I have some platinum too. I think it's 3/4 ounce platinum. I have some of those coins. So what I do, and this is what, when people come to me and they say, Jason, how do you structure it? Like these are and people come to me and they pay me a lot of money and you're going to get it right here. And they say, all right, I want physical precious metals. I want gold. I want silver. I want platinum. How do you set it up? I say, set it up in a two-tiered system. That's what I do. You've got to have a two-tiered system. Tier one is obviously the physical precious metals at home at your location. So I have a large fireproof safe. It's in my house. I have physical precious metals in there. That way they're on hand. That way, if I need them something, I mean, when I travel, because old habits die hard, I still have precious metals on me whenever I'm traveling, whenever I fly out of the country. So tier one is a stuff that, again, is at my house on hand. Tier two is the IRA retirement account. That is, okay, I've got my physical precious metals here, again, gold, silver, platinum, and then that money is stored in a depository. So I'm in Las Vegas right now, and I actually set it up courtesy of Kirill, as I said, hey, can you guys set up a private showing for me of where this stuff is stored? And there are these, like, it's Fort Knox. It's a private Fort Knox, for lack of a better word. And security is amazing because I said, hey, I want to see where all my stuff is stored, where all this stuff is stored. And so I was able to get a private tour. And there are these depositories just coast to coast. There's one in Delaware. The one I went to here is in Las Vegas. And I held up a 70-pound bar of silver.
That's
and
cool. Yeah.
It's heavy. It is heavy. So people always say, okay, when I'm storing in my IRA, Jason, where does that money go? Where it goes into one of these private Fort Knoxes, but it is still physical gold and silver. Because I get people coming to me, again, I pound the table. I'm like, no. I don't care that you're buying a gold ETF. I want it in my IRA. I want physical gold and silver, and in a home, I want stuff that jingles in my hands. That is what I want. So,
and I think a key point here too, in terms of the retirement account.
Well, can I interrupt you real quick, just because I saw that this is a question I've gotten so many times. Is, can a 70-plus-year-old guy open a retirement account to do this tier two thing?
Well, if you have cash, if the IRA is mostly for folks that have existing retirement accounts that simply want to convert it from paper assets into the physical. So if you don't have one of those accounts, you can simply buy direct delivery. We can set up storage for you at one of these facilities if that's what you prefer, or we could just ship it directly to you. So it's a simple process. That link that we dropped, and I want to finish my thought about the depository, because that was a really fun time that we got to go there. And I figured, I have to, for my clients, I have to bring the CIA guy into the depository because, he's really going to tell me what's going on in there. So I thought that was that was very beneficial for me as well to have you there. But the link that we drop, it's an offer that we're making to everybody that's viewing, and it's a strategy session. So you get to strategize one-on-one about your specific situation. There's so many great questions in this chat that I see, and I want to try to get to as many of them as we can. But this happens, I think when we did this last time, a year and a half ago, whenever it was, we just run out of time because there's so many great questions. But the best advice I can give everybody that's watching is fill out the strategy session. It's an offer that we're for all Spy Briefing clients and all the viewers out there. There's no credit cards that are required for anything like that. You get to strategize about your exact situation with a precious metal specialist that's assigned to your account. It's going to be specific to your specific situation, which I think is very important because we pride ourselves on catering our services to each individual client. And it's guaranteed to be private, completely secure, and you get a customized strategy that fits you. What do you need? What are your concerns? What are you looking to accomplish? And that's really what we offer. It's a lifetime guarantee. Your client, we're a relationship business. Your clients are all relationship lifetime clients. Same with us. As a bonus, we made these amazing T-shirts for Spy Briefing. These are exclusive T-shirts. They're custom made that are fantastic. You get a free T-shirt with a qualified appointment. So make sure you put your T-shirt size on that form, right? We're talking about protecting your retirement, but these are pretty cool. So you get a free T-shirt, and then with an eligible purchase, you can also qualify to get up to $1,000 of free silver as well. And that's with the purchase as a bonus that we can throw in, whether you want it, in different types of coins or silver sent to your home. So that's the
Let me jump in here now. So I want to cover more stuff. If everything I know that chat box is going so fast. Go to goldprotects.com, because if you email me, which if you want, I'm just going to forward you and say go to goldprotects.com. Now here's what I started at the beginning when I introduced Kirill. Is if you go there, what's the old saying? It's 30 years to build a reputation and 30 seconds to ruin it. I had almost every major gold company in the world reach out to me and say, hey, Jason, can you bring me on, or can you mention me, or whatever? I'm not exaggerating. Almost every major gold company in the world. And what they didn't realize is I said, I had already done research on them. I had already mystery shopped them. I had already background checked the people. And so Kirill, I was telling somebody, I said, hey, I'm trying to work with a gold company because I want to buy a lot of gold now. And he said, how do you know Advantage Gold? And I said, I'd heard of them, but I haven't. Those are the one guys I hadn't checked out yet. And so, of course, I checked him out, and then I said, make an introduction. And we've known each other for several years now. So literally, that's who I refer to my friends, my family, even my evil stepmother kind of thing. But if you do not have physical precious metals, the two-tier system, I think it's crazy. I think if you think you're going to get through 2024, and it's going to be a wonderful time to make a heck of a lot of money off of precious metals, off of gold, off of silver, and off of platinum too. I mean, gold and silver, admittedly, are my two biggest investments when it comes to precious metals. Platinum is lower down the list, but platinum is used in car battery, just so many different things that if you have the financial means to also invest in platinum, I think you're crazy not to. One question is, I'm looking here in the chat boxes. I'm scrolling through the million things. People always want to know, can you quickly take me through the step process of the self-directed IRA? I mean, I know it's super easy. I know you guys walk step by step, but can you give me a condensed version? Because people think it's going to be it's going to take me 10 years and the most, I'm going to be swimming through crocodiles. It's going to be so confusing. So what is that simple process of, hey, I want to buy physical precious metals in a self-directed IRA? Kirill, tell me how to do it.
So look, when I started Advantage Gold just about 10 years ago, it's almost our 10-year anniversary, there was two things that I knew for myself that I absolutely hated doing. I hated filling out forms, and I hated paying lots of annual fees. That's just something that I just didn't like. And so when we started the company, we wanted to make it an easy process that's streamlined and take care of the fees, which we're doing with this offer here of the self-directed IRA fees, and to make the process easy in terms of the actual transfer. So the process works as follows. The first step, again, just fill out the form on goldprotects.com to get your free consultation. Let's figure out if this is the right fit for you. We're not financial advisors. We're not tax advisors. We deal with physical precious metals, but we have an award-winning IRA department that specializes in helping make the entire process easy. So here are the steps. You fill out a self-directed IRA application. A self-directed IRA, it's just an empty IRA account. The application itself, our representatives can help walk you through it in under 4 minutes in most cases. So it's a very simple process. It's an empty account. It does nothing other than is a placeholder for where our IRA department will help you transfer your funds from your existing IRA. So if you have an IRA, you have an old 401k from an old job, you have a 401k from a current job, but you're over the qualified age of 59 and a half. You have a thrift savings plan. If you don't know what type of plan that you have, it's fine. We have an IRA department that will call over to your custodian and process a direct transfer of funds from your current retirement account into your new self-directed IRA. This is tax-free. It's penalty-free. You're not cashing anything out. You're literally transferring money from one account to another. It's like moving money from a checking account to a savings account. At the end of that process, which again, my IRA department, which is an award-winning IRA department, will help make easy for you. It's literally a phone call and maybe one signature page. At the end of that process, you now have a self-directed IRA that's under your control. It's not controlled by your old employer. It's not controlled by one of these investment banks like Fidelity or Vanguard. It's your self-directed IRA. It's under your complete control. And now you have cash inside of that account that you can choose what to invest in. And this is where the physical assets part really comes into play, because you can buy real estate inside of a self-directed IRA. if you want to. We can't help you with that. We specialize with precious metals, but we can set up that account that gives you this massive amount of flexibility with a self-directed IRA. And then you decide what types of coins you want, gold, silver, platinum. We can split up the portfolio however you want. We tape record the order. The prices are locked in. You get a receipt so you know exactly what you're paying down to the penny for every single item that you're buying. We're very transparent about it. It's something that we take a tremendous amount of pride in. And then at the end of that process, we package up the metals and then we ship them to the storage facility of your place. You've been to the one that's in Nevada. There's facilities in Texas, Delaware, which interestingly, strategically, Delaware is like one of the safest geographical places in the United States, which was shocking to me when I learned that, but it's apparently it's super safe. Salt Lake City, there's different facilities you can choose. And then once the metals are shipped to the facility, which again, guys, these are private facilities. This has nothing to do with the government. Okay, just because it's a retirement account, I can't stress this enough. This is a private facility. It has nothing to do with the government. The government's not controlling these facilities. These are private facilities. But what they do, and the protection that you have buying metals inside of an IRA is really unlike any other type of investment in precious metals. Because of the tax code, the depositories are required to inspect every single item that arrives at the depository to make sure that the metals fit the IRS's criteria for quality and purity and condition. So that means you have a third party. So it's not Advantage Gold. Obviously, you know us. We work together. You trust us. We have thousands of happy clients. We've won awards. But forget about all that. You have a third party that's not associated with us that is actually physically going through every single item that we ship over there to make sure that it fits the IRS's criteria. They log the metals under your name and your account. You have an itemized report that comes back to you from the custodian, from the self-directed IRA. So you know exactly what types of metals you have in your account. And the best part, you can take a distribution anytime that you want. So I saw some questions there in the chat in terms of, well, how do I get my metals? You can go and you pick them up. You can have them shipped to you. It's a physical asset. It's your property, completely up to you. They're simply stored there under your account number and your name until you wish to take a distribution.
Well, here's what I really like. So obviously I'm so OCD about my money, which is why I keep going back to how I investigated every gold company out there and then said, okay, you guys are the best. You guys are the one I want to do business with. And also why I want to see the facility myself. But what I really loved is when we were in that facility, of course, I'm looking at every security measure, and I was watching the guy opening one of the boxes, and there's a camera above. So it verifies, okay, you know, at September 25th at 9:47 a.m., he opened this box, and it's like a casino almost, where he holds up the coin, and they videotape the whole thing. Everything is there. And probably my favorite thing about the two-tier system is that I control everything in both. Meaning when it's in my house, I get to choose what coins I want. Or if I'm putting in the facility, I can just say, you know what, Kirill, this time I want, I'm just making this up, 10 1/4 ounce coins. I want 100 silver coins. I want 50 platinum coins. Like, I get to place the order and control, so I know exactly what is waiting there. And I was looking, Brenda is awesome. Brenda's a wonderful customer person. And she was talking about, hey, it was so easy for me. It took about 10 minutes to set up her IRA account. And this is one of the reasons I decided to, well, besides you were honest, that's the most important reason. But one of the reasons too is I detest paperwork. Like I when I was talking to Sean, who's, you know, one of the guys I've worked with a lot, I was like, this better be idiot proof and it better be quick because I'm not a man who has a lot of patience. And he was just like, oh yeah, you do this. And I was like, all right, this is great. You guys pretty much take care of everything. So it's easy. And that's, you know, again, I don't want to have to deal with anything that is complicated and pain in the butt, which is why I love it. So can I'm sorry, there was one that I was going to look at here. Crap, now I can't find it. But anyways, what I was going to say is, before I jump to the next thing, is please go to goldprotects.com. Please do this. Like, if you are not investing in gold and silver next year, or, you know, November 30th or whatever that date is, you're going to remember this financial trigger events thing you saw. You are going to remember everything I showed, and you're going to be kicking yourself in the head if you do not invest in physical precious metals. Like, if you do not have tier one in your house, if you don't have a self-directed IRA, or however you're going to invest in precious metals, obviously to each his own, but like, we are sitting at a grand time to not only make a lot of money from precious metals, but also protect ourselves when everything collapses. Like I've been pounding the fist with everybody lately, which is why I wanted to do this. So, Kirill, I know we've got only a few more minutes. We got to wrap up here. Any kind of final words here you want to share?
Yeah, look, this is all great. All the information you provided, it's great, and it's nice to be educated. But really, it doesn't mean anything unless you take action. You really have to take action. You have to find out the process for yourself and what's right for you. And so that's what I encourage everybody to do. Is it's great to be aware of these potential trigger events. It's great to be aware that there's this option. But if you do nothing about it, then you're just going to be a victim. And that's something that I know that you preach all the time, is taking action, being prepared, but taking action to position yourself to where something like this isn't going to wipe you out. And that's all that I want to say, is just take advantage of the offer. It's a phenomenal offer. You get a cool t-shirt. We'll cover all of your IRA fees if you decide you want to do business with us. It's completely no pressure. It's a consultation to help you determine if it's the right fit for you specifically, which I think is very, very important, because everybody is different. Everybody has different needs. Everybody has different perspectives, even your mother-in-law. Especially her. And so it's a fantastic offer. And then if you do decide to do business with Advantage Gold, as a SPY briefing client, as a client of Jason Hanson, we're going to take care of you. This is what we do. We absolutely love doing business with your people, Jason. We'll send you out a free t-shirt, which is a cool t-shirt about 3 things that you can actually count on. Definitely not the government, but the 3 on the t-shirt you can. And we'll give you a bonus offer of up to $1,000 of free silver if you do decide to do business with us. So for qualifying orders, of course, and we're happy to help. So take advantage of the offer. Go to goldprotects.com, fill it out. Tell us a little bit about yourself on that informational page as well, so that we can best cater to your specific situation and have a more meaningful conversation. But I think it's a fantastic offer, and I mean, your presentation was awesome. I'm definitely going to borrow some of those materials from you.
But here's what I want you to do. As I'm watching the chat box, and I'm scrolling, whatever, call them and pick their brain, because it's free. So part of my I want to say like my requirement, that's not a good word, but hey guys, if I'm going to share, if I'm going to recommend you, and if I'm going to tell my friends and family about you, you've got to make sure you have a team that's going to answer all their questions for free. And I've talked to many people on the team. Sean is the guy that I work with most often, but I've talked to all of them. So they're like a tremendous free knowledge database. So I'm seeing all these questions, which, I can't get to, like, hey, if, can I hold this in an IRA? Or what if I'm, all these different IRA questions. Pick their brain for free. That is what they're there for. And I told them they had to work late. Like I say, hey, I wanted to invite Kirill on. I'm sharing the financial triggers thing, which is very important. Will you guys work late to answer questions? And that was, again, part of our agreement to take care of you. So please go to the website, goldprotects.com, call them, do whatever, but pick their brain. And I beg of you to invest in precious metals if you're able to. It is so important. Hopefully you learned a thing or two tonight. I want to thank you very, very much, Kirill, for being on here and us being able to connect after a year and a half and sharing your knowledge and how easy it is. But we're at that point, guys. All right, 2024 is not going to be pretty. And again, I'll tell you one quick thing before we end. I'm in SHOT Show. I was meeting with an 80-year-old gentleman who wanted to spend a tremendous amount of money on food storage and precious metals. Of course, I said, just call Advantage Gold. And he said, Jason, here's why I'm doing it now. And I'm going to screw up the quote because it's a well-known quote, but he says, there's 3 types of people. There's people who, sit around in life. I'm going to screw it up now. But, there's the 3 types of people. There's people who sit around in life. There's people who complain, and there's people that make things happen. And he said, Jason, he's 80 years old now. He says, Jason, my entire life, I've been making things happen. So I am spending a ton of money on precious metals. I'm spending a ton of money on food storage because guess what? I've got several kids, and not all of them are make things happen type of people. So hopefully you are a make things happen type of person. That food storage, that water storage, the precious metals. So yes, please go to goldprotects.com. And again, if you reach out to my customer service, because we are not the financial IRA experts, I'm just going to forward your information, and I promise they'll take good care of you. They always have. And if you have any issues, let me know, because I've got the CEO's phone number. We have each other's cell phone. He picks my brain, I pick his brain. So I will call him and say, hey, can you take care of this or whatever? And we've always jumped on it. So anything else? I know I'm starting to ramble, Kirill. Anything else before I know I got to let you go?
Look, there's such amazing questions in the chat about RMDs, about the electrical grid, which is something that we talked about when we were at the depository. What happens if the power goes out, and all the safety measures and the backup measures that they have. A lot of questions about the anonymity, the privacy, the IRA. Folks, fill out the form or give us a call. We're happy to help. Again, it's a private consultation. And it's a fantastic offer. And I think it's just something that you have to take advantage of. Protect yourself. You can't rely on the government to protect you. I mean, everybody knows Ronald Reagan's famous quote about the 9 scariest words to hear is that I'm here from the government and I'm here to help you. And so we can't rely on the government to be there for us. So, but what you can do is you can put yourself on the gold standard. Even though the country's not on the gold standard, you can put yourself on the gold standard, on the silver, platinum standard. And therefore, you can protect yourself from all these different possible trigger events that I agree are pretty darn scary. And I think likely, if not one of them, or if not multiple, at least one of them, I think is highly likely to happen this year. So take advantage of the offer, take action, protect yourself, learn about it. And I think you're gonna have a positive experience. We absolutely love our clients. We're a relationship-based business, and we're always gonna take care of your people, Jason. So thanks for having me.
Good, thank you. And remember what I said. I said it doesn't matter what the financial trigger event is. The social media, the fear, it's gonna spread like wildfire. So I hope you learned a thing or two tonight. Tell your friends and family about the financial triggers. Like, make sure they're prepared, make sure they know this information. If there's anything you can do, always reach out to me. But really set up the 2-tier precious metal system if you can. It has always served everybody well who I've shared it with, never had any problems. So go to goldprotects.com. Thank you for your time. God bless you. God bless your family. Thank you once again, Kirill, and everybody have a fantastic rest of the night.
Thanks, Jason. Take care. Thank you all. God bless.